Morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Grant Cameron, and I'm going to do a little bit of an update on stuff that's happening, new material, quite a bit happening. In behind me, you'll see an orb. We're busy with the orbology group, a bunch of people who are studying this orb phenomena. This is one of the cooler ones. I think it was taken either by Jeff or by Chase in the United States. And if people believe this is dust, this is pretty cool looking dust. That's the first thing I wanted to mention. The main thing I want to talk about today is there is now a new scientific investigation being done by a government. It's being done by the Canadian government, and it is being conducted, has started some time back. I was actually part of a group that was semi-involved in this whole thing. And basically what's happened is the Canadian government, through the work of a guy named Larry Maguire, his member of parliament in Canada, got interested in the UFO phenomena, not because he had a sighting or anything. He just was interested in it and decided that he wanted to pursue this. There was a bunch of other MPs who were interested in the phenomena, and they contacted the science advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada, which is a new position since 2017. And basically, what happened is that they were going to run a panel. We were part of a panel. I won't get too much into that. But we were going to get some American advice and some help to educate these members of parliament that were going to come forward. And then what happened at the very end of the whole thing was that the Americans pulled out because the Canadians wanted to do a scientific investigation. And the word that was used is that's the poison pill. One of them said, I'm gone. And then one of the other people later stated that we're not here to do disclosure. I could go on. And so basically, we have two different systems that are going on. We have one being run by the US Congress, but that has nothing to do with science. As far as I can see, it has to do with intelligence and the Armed Services Committee, which means it's being proposed as a military threat, looking for funding for black ops and to study this mystery that it appears they may not have actually been able to unravel, and they need some help. And there was some people inside the government who retired who were upset and wanted this out. And so that's the American investigation. The Canadian investigation is much different. It's being run by a woman whose name is Dr. Mona Nemer, who was formerly the head of research for the University of Ottawa. And strangely, the University of Ottawa is where the Wilbert Smith files are. Wilbert Smith ran the Canadian government UFO investigation from 1950 to 1954. His files are actually at the University of Ottawa, and I have a collection of those files. Now, she had gone forward. They were going to use some of the material that we got in terms of Americans answering questions, but we were told at one point that people weren't intending to answer questions that people could look up on Google. So we didn't get any help. And so the Canadians have gone on their own. And I guess Larry Maguire made this request to Dr. Nemer, and she took up the request. And now there is an official government investigation of UAPs, UFOs, whatever you want to call it. And it started last year. This is when we were involved. We were involved in August. So in November is the start of the project. It's called Sky Canada Project. It's being run, as I said, out of the Office of the Science Advisor to the Prime Minister of Canada. So it's very close to the head of power here. November 2022 was the start of the project. The timeline states that winter and spring of 2023, the Canadian government, through the Science Advisor, will be collecting information. I have given connections to a couple of scientists who said that they would contact her to try to help get some advice, because this is not a speed that the Canadian government is going to be up to speed on. And so I've tried to help as much as I can to provide the Science Advisor with as much material as possible from people that I know who might have some of the answers. So spring and spring and winter 2023. So they will actually be in that process right now of collecting information. Fall of 2023, there will be a draft report for internal discussion inside, I guess, the Science Advisor's office, or inside the agencies, the scientific agencies that are involved. And then winter of 2024, there will be a final report, and it will be made public. It's not like the United States situation with Congress, that Congress may get a bunch of briefings in skiffs, and they may find out what's going on, but because it's a national security consideration, it will all be top secret, code word. You will never hear what's going to go on. You'll hear a bunch of rumors, which people really don't care about. You can hear all the rumors you want. If you can't confirm it, it really doesn't matter. We have had rumors since 1947. So that material, I do not believe will see the light of day in terms of classified material, because classified material, what you tell the public, you tell the Russians and the Chinese, and I don't see any way at all that the national security establishment in the United States is going to notify publicly the Chinese and the Russians where to look for where the research is being done, what the situation with the research, how far it's gotten along, where the crafts are being stored, and what they may have back engineered. There's no way they're going to put that stuff on the table. So the Canadian one will be a final report will be made public to everybody. And there's a bunch of material they put out in terms of educating people, the idea that whatever you put out, you get education, and it's for the general public, that you cannot advance unless you use science to educate people. So they're going to be very open about this, and I have made some contacts, and we will try to keep people up to date on this. Now, a lot of the situation that sort of disappoints me is that what I said was, when this first was made public by Daniel Otis, who's a reporter for the Canadian CTV television network, and also wrote an article on this for Vice magazine. He and I have been in contact since last year, when he first wrote articles about the fact that the Canadians were going to do an investigation on UAPs. And he wrote an article, and I said to people that people should link Dr. Nemmer's Twitter account to keep track of what's going on. And I looked to see that Lou Elizondo has 115,000 followers. And after I put out the alert that people should follow Dr. Nemmer, basically it's just Daniel Otis and myself who are following her. There's nobody in the UFO community who's following this woman, and this woman is now chairing the only public scientific UFO investigation from a government that will be made public in at least the last 30 years. So what we've basically got is a situation which I have warned people about before, is that if we do not support this, and we do not make sure that this stuff gets out in public, you basically have the situation that Dr. Eric Walker gave to us back in 1990 when we were doing interviews with him. Dr. Eric Walker was a former president of Penn State University. He was chairman of the board of the Institute for Defense Analysis, the top military think tank in the United States, where the Jasons came from and where DARPA came from. He knew what the UFO situation was. We interviewed him. Dr. Kit Green went in to try to talk to him. Hal Puthoff tried to talk to him, trying to pick this guy's brain. And here's what he said about the UFO situation. And this is what we have to be alert of. This is from a 1990 interview with Dr. Walker. He says, after all, 40 years have gone by and nobody has blown up the world. As I say, this is none of your business. Just to satisfy your curiosity. Is it not? It's not going to do any damn good except to make you happy. Is that not true? Are we to change all the plans and regulations just to make you happy? If you say you are looking for the truth, you will never get it anywhere. Anyway, so forget it. Why should we bother to spend time and money just to make you happy? Answer me that. And that basically is saying they really don't care if you're interested in UFOs. This is military security. This is about building weapons. This is about protecting yourself against weapons that other countries may build with the technology that people may think is at the bottom of this thing. And the other story that relates to this is the story that was told it was told to me by Bud Hopkins many years back. And this is the story that J. Allen Hynek, who had been given the science job for the U.S. Air Force, had gone in the 1970s. And this is when you hear this story, when it was handed off from the government to the military contractors to sort of protect it. At that point, it was in the Nixon administration. Rumsfeld, who was the national security advisor, defense guy for Richard Nixon, was friends with J. Allen Hynek. And at one point, J. Allen Hynek said to him in his office, he said, I've been sort of the good guy, and I've worked on this, and I've done all the government asked me to do on this program, and I've been working on this for 30 years. I think it's now time for me to get read in and have a need to know. And the story was that Rumsfeld stood up, pointed his finger straight into J. Allen Hynek's face and said, "You do not have a need to know," and then just sat down again. And that was the end of the conversation. So that's what we have to remember, is that if you want this public, you have to go through the science route. And bravo to Canada, and bravo to the science advisor and to Prime Minister Trudeau for actually putting this forward and taking the first steps. So Canada will lead the way. People always say, what happens if some other government discloses before the United States of America? That may be happening. This will be happening within the next year. And I'm very happy to alert people to the fact that this is going to take place. Now, one other bit of news that has come up, will happen within the next year as well, is I've always maintained that there are elements inside the US government who want to control the story, narrate the story, leak the story, get in front of the story. And I was approached by some people about this, as I have been in the past. And I can just say today, a letter was written. I was very surprised to get a call from the producer, who basically said, I got a call. So we have something going on there as well. This may take a while to unfold, but it will be pretty significant if it is. It's not going to be, it may be a controlled story by some element within the government, but it is not going to be this national security, top secret weapon type thing. It's going to be a different part of the story, I think. So that's it for now. As I said, lots of stuff is happening at an incredible rate. I think we're sort of on the edge of something, but let's hope that the Canadians get it. I've heard some of at least one of the witnesses that they asked to talk to, and I'm determined that that name will become public, and that alone will change the whole, whatever you want to call it, the whole structure of what you think is actually going on, because it's, I don't even know who it is yet, but I know it's a major player that the Canadians want to talk to. So that's it for today. If you have any questions, contact me, whitehouseuFO@gmail.com, and I'll keep you updated as we move along through the UFO mystery, which has taken up 48 years of my life. Thanks.